This is the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast, with Kreese, Mino, and Mark, bringing you all your Defo news and talk. Welcome to Season 3, the Chaos Era. Now let's start the show.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 103 of the Crystal Chronicles, your Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia podcast. I'm Mark, and I'm glad you're here with us tonight as we talk all things Defo. So tonight I'm joined by my two favorite co-hosts. The first is Mino Spellgood, and what's for dinner, Mino?
Chicken tortilla soup.
That sounds excellent. Where's it from? Do you make it yourself?
Costco.
Oh, fancy. I have been spending most of my stimulus check on asparagus, so I understand Costco life. I'm also joined by my good friend and yours. His name is Kreese, a.k.a. Zurink. How you doing, Kreese?
Doing okay. Headaches all day, but I think I'm getting over them now.
Well, we're glad you're here, headache or no headache.
Also, you kept in the joke on the outline.
I have... There's a couple jokes. I think there was a joke in the... there's a joke in the outline and a joke in the stream. So we'll see. I think the one joke is funnier than the other jokes, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So, yes, in Welcome, which is the section in the outline that we're in right now, Kreese wanted to remind you all that we have created the ultimate TCC tier list, the X-TREME tier list. So you can check out our YouTube channel for that wonderful tier list. And do check out our good friend Black Cloud. He's Black Nero on YouTube. Black Nero did a wonderful video called Your Tier List is Shit. And so my tier list is a response to that tier list, or that video about tier list. And I think they're both fairly comical. So a lot of fun tier list discussions this week.
So what you're saying is we're in tier listception because you made a tier list about his response to a tier list, which in return was about his response to a tier list. So we're 3 layers deep now.
And if anybody else wants to make a response to my tier list, that would be great. Let's just keep going. Keep the love going. But of course, if you're looking for a tier list, this is probably not the place for you because we like to look at every character individually, talk about their pros and cons, their highs and lows, how good they are, how bad they are, and everything in between, and how, of course, you can use all of them if they are your favorite.
If there's one thing you can be confident about, Mino will hate your favorites.
And Mino will hate your favorites. And we'll try to defend them, but if your favorites are crap, I'm sorry. It's what we can do. Now, there's a couple things going on. You can still get your Snow costume, his cool, I'm a cool guy, cool jacket, and with gems, of course. And the 3-time support item sale continues. So if you're still grinding those boards, don't worry. You can still get your 3 times books for experience or 4 items, and I get both of them on a regular basis. Now, talking about books, and we'll talk a little bit more about in the summon boards, but I think I used less than 25 books for my summon board grind, so 15-minute books. And I was not, one of the kids comes in the room or somebody in my family needs something and I'm doing something and the books get interrupted. They're not, I'm not doing really, intense runs that some of our friends, really try to get as many runs as they can in. So, I think they're a good investment and saves you a lot of time. So that's my 2 takes on that. The Faire campaign is still going. So make sure that every day you do one This May Be Gigantic co-op. You can do it as a solo run. I stand corrected from last week. You do not have to do it as a co-op, and you don't have to use a bell to get the reward. You can do it as a solo. That is confirmed. And we have, if you do it every day, we have gotten enough to get the 20 nuggets, which is 1 ingot, but you can still get more tokens to get something else. Or if you aren't concerned about nuggets, for weapon nuggets, you can get something else too. But do that until you can't do it anymore. And you'll have some more free stuff. But you should have enough if you've done it every day to get your 20 nuggets. and therefore gets a free ingot. There you go. Well, let's talk Ultimate Diabolos, which we introduced last week, and we've all been in the midst of this. I want to remind everybody that during Ultimate Diabolos and moving forward, special boosted characters, which would be for this event, Aerith, Wakka, Vaan, Kuja, Sabin, and Deuce, they are boosted for all of the character boards. So if you're missing some characters...
You mean summon boards.
Summon boards, excuse me. We're not at character boards yet, but when we do, that's a whole different thing. But for all of the summoning boards, they are special boosted. So you can take Aerith, Vaan, Wakka, Kuja. I took Vaan to all the other summon boards to work on Snow and maybe a couple others that I was missing their boards for. So it is, although you don't need things for Snow, but for some that I didn't have, it would. The Infinite Element, thank you for the resub, and CSAM, thank you for the bits. But yeah, for those characters who maybe you want to go back and finish up on, you can go back into those old boards without any problem. So yeah. Finalism, refers to that as universal super synergy or special boosted. That's a good way to talk about it. Universal special boosted characters. So the question is, how is everybody doing on your summon board grind? In chat, let us know how you're doing. I have all my treasures for all 123 characters. I was able to collect enough tickets to master fully 6 characters. And I was able to master 61 boards, I think. So I don't think that's all of my EXs, but the vast majority of my EX characters with EX, and then some other ones that I've just kept up. So I have 61 boards fully mastered and the rest treasured. Crease, how are you doing on your summon board grind?
Wow. I'm done with treasures, and I have about 30 character board or summon boards mastered for Diabolos. Pretty much all of my EX plus weapons and all my purple weapons and a couple of my non-purple EX plus weapons mastered. Basically characters that I see myself potentially using in the near future. I'm mostly done. I might go back and do 1 or 2 more, but for the most part, I've cleaned out everyone I wanted to do. So I'm done with Diabolos summon board farming. Outside of like 1 or 2 stragglers, I might switch back and go do again.
Mino, we know you're not a big fan of summon boards. How are yours going?
Finished all treasures, mastered about 45. So I'm right in between you guys, and that's good enough. I'm bored. I'm done. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And just as well, because I'm glad I knocked that out, because a bunch of games I'm actively playing just got big updates this week and next week. So DFFOO is now on the back burner for a little bit, which is just as well, because we don't have any announcements until Monday, right?
Yeah, next Monday. Yeah.
Oh, wait, when's the Super Synergy end? Next week?
No, we got another week.
Tuesday, I think.
Yep.
I might, at this point, I might go back and finish some old boards, like wrap up some Shiva for some people who are still lacking it, because I always feel like the older boards are more important boards, more important passives, you know? And these newer passives really suck, so I'll take my time on that.
All right. Well, I hope all of you are doing well in your summon boards and enjoying the grind as much as possible. Like I said, I ended up using, I think, about 25 15-minute books. So really, that didn't seem like that much to master 61 boards and you get treasures for all the rest of them. So now we did have a TCC challenge and a chaos discussion to have here. I don't think I got the call.
We've already gone over the chaos, so we can just jump straight into the TCC challenge.
So let's talk about, Kreese, can you remind us what the TCC challenge for Diabolos was, as I forgot to pull it up here?
The TCC challenge for the Diabolos chaos fight was no friend. You have to use the Diabolos summon, and you must use 3 or less ingots throughout your entire team. Mino, do you want to talk about how we came upon this? Because I know we got some blowback on this specific TCC challenge.
I actually don't know, because I missed the discussion.
Okay, I'll cover it briefly.
Okay.
The basic idea was...
Okay, go ahead.
The basic idea of the TCC challenge for the Diabolos chaos was that the fight was so easy that we did not even think we were going to make a TCC challenge at all. And the only reasonable strategy we could come up with was to restrict ingot use, because just restricting characters was not going to be good enough unless we restricted like most of the roster. And that was the solution we came up with. It We tossed around other ideas, but really this fight was so easy we probably could have skipped a TCC challenge. The only reason we did it was that people still wanted one despite what we said.
Yeah, so there was a lot of submissions, even though we did that. Oh, I just lost my thing here. Yeah, even though we did all that, there was a lot of submissions. Now, there was a lot of similar teams. That being said, Charlotta really was, I think, the VIP here. Lena showed up a lot. We even had some Alice A and Lightnings kind of as the hero, warrior of light with no ingots.
Kings, Lena's.
Yep. Penellos with no ingots.
There were solo lightning still.
Yep. Yeah, so let me just read the let me read the long list of people that actually did this. Big Al.
We had 50 video submissions almost.
Wow, 50. Big Al, Carbajack, Matarasu, Ultima, Final Asim, Rengoku, Dystopia Clay, Prince U87, Harrieth, Slide, Volt Surge, Resfoina. Hey, Res, good to have her join in the fun there. Anne Threrenz, Eco, Pikachu, who I did confirm is Jewish and has an adorable little avatar of Pikachu in his Jewish garb. Belial, GM Shugo, Infamous Element, Demon Zack, Swifty, DJ QB, Lizette, Soul DFF00, one of our friends and streamers, Demon Zack again, Aodin Phoenix, Death Kebab, Sven Knows, Masaleno, one of our friends and streamers, Excalibur, Meow, Defo, Dreamy, Akemi, not one of our friends, not a fellow streamer, but of course part of the, I'm joking, we love Dreamy, part of the Tomberry Troop, Mammoth, Salte, Gapsha, who I believe streams as well, Slight, Taz, Teague, Scott, Alex, and Cernia's here, Snoop Ball, Yoshi Pasta, Arrow Laylee, who's one of our dear friends and mods and also on YouTube, C-Sam, Elfinode, Weird, Pikachu again, Rubber Cat is a new one, so welcome Rubber Cat, Aodin Phoenix, Tears, and Ellis, Buddy, NCTU, and Aodin Phoenix both had the 0 ingot clears, Aodin Phoenix with Charlotta Lightning Hope, and Buddy NCTU with Charlotta Warrior of Light Pinello. So we asked and you answered, and yeah, it was not a difficult fight, was it? But I think a lot of people had fun doing it, and so we're glad that the TCC Challenge has kind of found new life and new excitement, and figure out how to turn off my notifications because that's probably too loud. But so it goes. But yeah, so thank you all of you for participating in that, and we really enjoy it. It's been a lot of fun to be able to do that. So let's move from Ultimate Diabolos, which was last week's news, to the event that we had coming into this week. We're getting a new event here in 41 minutes. But last week we got Cinque's LC, or Cinque's LC, Sincere Strength. So Cinque got her realization, and of course Snow got a rework and an EX and a realization. So Creasy, why don't you tell us what Cinque got in her EX realization?
Realization E, you mean?
Yes, realization E.
So just quickly as a breakdown of how Cinque's kit works before we go into what her EX realization is, she works around a mechanic where she applies stun debuffs to a target, and then her abilities get stronger if the enemies have at least 5 stacks of the stun debuff total throughout all of them. She basically dispels the stack, but she deals a bigger attack for the benefits. I think also she's low turn rate and slow as molasses as her base kit, so keep that in mind. And notable things is that the stun debuff actually reduces enemy defense and speed as a frame debuff. What her EX realization brings her is a recast speed increase to her very, very slow EX ability. Whirling Mace was the slowest charging EX ability in the game after Ishtola and Dark Knight Cecil got recast speed increases on theirs with their realizations. So I think this brings her up to about par with them now. Um, she also gets a new framed buff, which gives her increased Brave Overflow on all of her abilities, some attack increase, and Brave Regen. And if you continue realizing it, her EX ability becomes better in that it now deals 3 HP hits. She inflicts turn rate down to all enemies, and she gets access to a Brave plus plus and an HP plus plus that are basically just better versions. Brave plus plus becomes an AoE Brave hit and applies stun 3 stacks of stun to all targets, and HP plus plus just becomes a better button to push with Brave hits combined with the Brave gain based on her attack. I don't think any of the three of us have her kits really say how she applies, but Dreamy's been having a lot of fun with her. I she's a damage dealer. She has some weird quirks for her kit that make her trickier to use. The fact that she has to rely on a stacking debuff that she drains when she uses her greater abilities can make it tricky. So keep that in mind. But she's a solid character if you know how to use her. Mino, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts to say on her.
So much. For some reason, we've been doing so much research on this one character this whole week. Half of Tomberry Troop got her, and we've been comparing notes because. So I at least 0-3'd her, but I know 0-3 is not a good indication of a character. That's why I really wanted to follow up with Dreamy and Telute, who have her 3-3'd. And this is how the quote unquote TCC Extreme Challenge was born, by the way, because we are running units in comparison in different fights with the same team comp and only replacing Cinque with other damage dealers. And we said no friends because there's a lot of character showcases out there who will take the character in question and then replace it with like General Leo or something, and then spam through the first wave or the last wave, and it just had no indication of the character. So we said to really test it, let's calculate all the damage and turn counts without using a friend. And then we found that we had a really good time not using a friend. But we'll get to the TCC challenge later. Anyways, where do I even start with this character? Let me start with chat talking about Cinque. So I don't understand why this is such a big mispronunciation thing, but basically in the nickname, they basically just tack on a Y at the end of her name, right? So I don't know how I guess it's because of the weird spelling of her name, people go from Cinque to Cinque just with an addition of a Y. But the common lazy localization thing people do for Japanese is anything that ends in a chan adds a Y. So it'd be like Mark and the Marky, as he was doing with Crease and Creasy, etc. So all they do is tack a Y on, and you got Cinque as in Cinky. But yeah, a lot of people.
Squix Joshua says Cinque.
No.
Cinque Chan.
He always shows up right when we're talking about pronunciations, right? Okay. But on to the character. So her kit is very interesting, but I will start off by saying it's a combination of two things I really hate. One is a tempo character because of the stack management, and the other is a very enemy reliant character because of the debuff reliance. So it's a ramp up on debuffs rather than buffs, as many other tempo characters are, like Sabin. But Tell and Dreamy have been telling me a lot of stuff, and we've been testing it out. Basically, if her EX is 3-3 and you go into any 3-wave fight, you automatically have 9 stacks there, right? Because it automatically applies 3 on each target. Then you can just pick on one person, one target to dispel their buff, and it'll still leave 6 stacks on the field, so she can get her plus versions as much as possible. So it's basically a lot of skill 2 spam, which is a single target, and then right before the EX, you hit him with the skill 1 plus version, which is 200% overflow, huge hits. It wipes out all the buffs, but then you use the EX and it applies 5 stacks to all targets again. Or no, is it one target or all targets? I forget.
It's all targets.
Yes, right. So basically, there is a way to kind of cheat, well, quote unquote cheat, and use the plus version for every turn of her fight. And it's nice, but as you mentioned, the plus versions push her turn back a bit. Low turn rate, I believe, is a GL term. That's good or bad depending on your perspective. I don't know. You guys weigh in on this. On the
Well, it
one
can
hand,
be, yeah.
Discussing it with Dreamy, he's argued that the low turn rate and setting it up properly right before her EX finishes charging allows her to set up launches much more easily because since she's so slow, she usually is taking a turn right before enemies. By doing a low turn rate ability, she switches herself to right after enemies.
Right.
So
I mean,
that's his argument for why
that's
it's a great thing. I don't know if I agree with that, but that's his argument.
yeah, I mean, yeah, Tell told me the same thing, and I agree. It is a neat gimmick, not a very intuitive one I would recommend for most players, right? Because they don't know how to get Aranea to delay with skill 1. But but you're right. It has some function, and also silver lining. If you only use plus versions and her turn keeps going back, she takes less turns throughout the fight, meaning she can spam abilities more. But it also means your teammates are using more ability counts to offset that. It's just something to note, for sure.
Oh, one thing I forgot to mention about Cinque's realization. Sorry, Cinque's realization.
Oh,
Is
it's
that
Japanese pronunciation for some reason really is sync. So we're
okay?
good on that. We don't have to correct.
One thing I forgot to mention is that if you get at least 2 ingots in her EX plus, she actually starts recharging uses of her second ability, Home Run Swing. I'm sorry for
Yes.
forgetting that. I forgot to mention that.
But here's the downside. So I mean, on a 3 target wave, she's in her element for sure. But when you go down to 2 targets, you do have to do some maintenance. You can't just do a perfect plus rotation all the way through. There are some times you have to drop it and reapply. And then on a single target, forget it. She's awful on a single target because of how much insane ramp up she needs. Her EX is every 4th turn, because on average it's about 3.5 abilities, unless you're using
Selfie.
Oh yeah, but I was going to say if you get only plus versions too, because high turn rate increases it. So it's roughly every 4 turns. Her debuff only lasts 4 turns on the enemy. So again, being enemy reliant, if there are multiple enemies, the launching is hard. If they're fast enemies, the debuff won't always be on, and the stacks can fall off unless you're deliberately trying to reapply it. It is a very complicated juggling act. Tell has agreed to that, but he also says the fun in the character is the setting up the launches. So the fun factor is really high, and how kind of complicated this character is, and how you have to like mess with the turn rate and set up these big launches, and the launches are huge. They're about 450k on a perfect launch. It's really big. But outside of that, I really don't feel like she's worth it, because this is a lot of work for the plus versions are not very good, in my opinion. It's 4 hits, right, on each of the skills. Let me see.
It's 3 AoE Brave hits on Earthquake plus. It's 3 Brave hits on Home Ring
3.
Swing plus.
Right.
But she also has Brave gain based on her attack. Before that, she has Brave regen built into her kit with her unique buff from EX, and she has 200% overflow base,
significant
which is
overflow.
220% overflow with Mighty Maiden. So
Right.
if she has any Brave battery, she can potentially just be capping every swing.
Right. And we're talking here about we talked about team building for her so much. I know you were discussing speed supports with her. I don't know how that conversation panned out.
Dreamy tested Pinello, and what he said was that she was not recharging as fast. Her EX was not recharging as fast as it was with, for example, Aerith or whatchamacallit, Selfie.
Mm-hmm. And basically, I guess from what we found with the testing is, I feel like if you take out the launch, her plus abilities aren't great because, as they're saying, everyone's running her with massive battery so she can take advantage of that overflow. Without massive battery, if she's hitting from initial brave or even low brave after she's just dumped and there's no regen on her, 3 hits is not a very high number. I feel like the massive overflow is only there because once she's capped out on battery, she won't leak, which is a very good thing. She doesn't leak at all because of the high, but like her natural damage is not very high, and she's not dumping that high. And I still owe Tell some test results, but what we were doing was we were comparing certain DPS together. And my job was to compare with Yang, since I 3-3'd him. And even in I still have to give him my results, but even in a 2-target fight, Yang was out damaging Cinque with optimal party setups. And it's just like, in single target, she's awful. She thrives in a 3-target situation, but there are better DPS, better AoE DPS to bring in that situation. And there's a lot of stack management and speed management here. If you're fighting 1 or 2 target bosses, a third or 2/3 of your skills are going to be non-plus versions, which aren't very good either. I personally don't like the concept of this character. I really don't feel like she's worth the effort, but a lot of characters have said she's at least fun to play. And in an era where you really don't need top tier, characters in every single fight, people are having fun with her. I just could never recommend this to a new player asking for, to beef up their roster. Maybe. I mean, I think even Jack coming up is a better pick. But Kreese, did you have any further thoughts on that, or should we go to Mark?
I just want to mention that something we've touched on but not explicitly said is that Cinque is kind of a deceptively multi-target boss fight character rather than a single target boss fight character, which is strange because when I was looking at her kit back, especially when she first arrived, before she got her EX plus, she felt like she was a single target character, but that's not really the case.
Right.
She works best in an AoE environment, which is weird for a character that seems to be built around single target in some ways. So yeah, she works best in AoE situations.
Oh, I did want to bring up that 3-3 Cinque with the speed down and the turn rate debuff is very significant. Both of those combined really do significantly slow. Turn rate debuff is such a good debuff. I think we were discussing it. Only Quistis has it at this point.
Right.
It's Quistis and Cinque, yeah.
Yeah, so it is very valuable, but just for me personally, not valuable enough to 3-3 Cinque for it.
Yeah, and I think you do want to 3-3 her if you want to use her. And,
yes.
and I mean, at this point, like we've said 100 times, there's not a lot of bad characters at this point in the game, and you're going to be able to use them. I mean, I don't know. I haven't talked to Shara about Cinque specifically, but I know Shara's a big Type 0 fan, so I assume he already has her in Purple Tur. But Arrow has her, Taliud has her, Dreamy has her, Squex Joshua has her and has been using her. So, obviously a lot of people love Type 0, and she's a character a lot of people like. So she's going to find use. Now, I think there's been some misconceptions listening to, I listen to all the other content creators and spend too much time on some other social media venues, hearing what people are talking about in the game. And, a lot of people get caught up in the debuff stacking. And really, again, obviously, if you're in a single target boss, it's different. But where she really shines, which is multiple bosses, the debuff stacking is really not that huge of an issue. Yes, it is a thing that you have to do, but, it's not such it's not such a terrible thing like, a lot of other content creators have been talking about. She's an easy skip just because of this stacking debuff mechanic. No, I mean, she's just kind of a tempo character, and she's a tempo character that takes a little bit more, perhaps skill to play or more attention to play than maybe some other characters. So,
very involved character.
Yeah, but again, right, if you're going to say, pure damage, Are there characters now or coming out that are going to be better pure damage? I mean, probably Jack does more AoE damage than she does, just kind of straight up. You're talking launches. Well, we have the best launcher coming out here potentially next month, right? So, but she kind of does both of those things and has some unique debuffs, like you said. And again, if you like her and you need a DPS and you pulled her because you're pulling for Snow, or you already had her, then she might fill in a slot there. And I mean, you might be able to get away with using her just realized on Dimensions End, especially lower tier Dimension End. But I mean, obviously, if you want to use her to full potential, you want a 3/3er, and we're in this ingot reality, right? Even if you buy them all, I'll buy all the extra ingots, you're still not being able to purple everything that you get. So you do have to make some tough choices. So anything else? Again, if you like the character, you pull on them. But obviously, Cinque is one that if you pull on her and like her, great. If you don't, then you'll probably live without her.
Right. And I just want to add that all the reviews are personal opinion. I'm saying she's a fun character, but I don't like her because I like to take as many turns as possible. Cinque is the opposite. It's all about positioning and slowing down and hitting hard, setting up for launches, etc. And you guys know I'm super biased against debuffs as well and stack building. So it's just a miss for me personally. But that doesn't mean she's not a fun character and not a great concept. Just something that I am passing on personally.
Yeah, I think that's
I guess
fair.
it's time for us to talk about the character we actually enjoy more.
Well, yeah, the character I put on the background is it's his event, right? It's Snow's event. So let's talk about Snow. Was he even in any of the cutscenes? Was Snow even in any of the cutscenes?
I don't know. I skipped
remember.
all of these cutscenes for this last chapter.
I don't think so. Maybe.
Hooray! You've joined the dark side.
No, I was just trying to get caught up so I'd be able to talk about the Chaos event this week.
So let's talk about Snow. Reese?
Okay, so Snow got a pretty extensive rework, plus a new EX weapon, plus an EX realization. So changes to his base kit. He has more Frost Strike ability uses. I think he has another Steel Guard ability use. I don't remember if he got more, if he already had 5 ability uses. Steel Guard's changed a bit. It's now a much better button to push. It provides battery to the whole party based on his int Brave. He dumps Brave with a Brave plus HP attack. He regains Brave based on HP damage dealt, so he's not going to leave himself vulnerable. And instead of a generic Brave regen buff, it's been replaced with a new buff called Offensive Screen, which raises his attacks, Max Brave and Int Brave, based on the number of stacks, maximum 3, along with providing him Brave regen. And each of those buffs gets better with more stacks. He gets more stacks for taking braver HP attacks. Frost Strike now actually is a much better button to push too. It's multiple brave hits and can overflow. It does heal his health still. He does brave gain based on damage dealt, so he doesn't leave himself open for brave breaks. He has a brave plus now, which does battery the party. He has an HP plus now, which batteries himself based on HP damage dealt. So all of his buttons are a lot better to push now, basically. His new EX ability is called Sovereign Fist. It's on a normal recharge. It gives him a new frame buff, that raises his int Brave and max Brave further, and also has a unique characteristic, reduces party HP damage taken from all attacks. AoE Brave plus single target HP with splash damage dealt. If you realize his weapon, he gets stat bonuses, greater overflow. Sovereign Fist deals 2 HP attacks. And he also starts with Hot Blooded Hero and a free ability use on his first turn, allowing him to set himself up much faster. All in all, Snow is a much better character. Oh yeah, one last thing I forgot. He has attack and max brave auras in one of his passives now. So he's providing some party auras along with all of the tankiness. Snow's a much, much better character now. He could always take hits forever thanks to his Steel Guard buff. Now he's actually doing something beyond just taking hits forever, which is really nice to see. He just is unkillable after he takes a couple of swings. And it's amazing to watch that in action. One downside is he is tied to Frost Element for Frost Strike, but it's not a huge deal either. You can work around the button, or you can just not push it if you don't need to now. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Snow's kit now.
Snow is so good right now. He feels really, really good. I think I'm going into this biased because I love tanks and I can never have enough. The word around the street is that if you really don't like Snow and you really don't want to invest in a tank, Zack can still take you far enough until the next one, technically. But I really like Snow. I think it's a decent upgrade for sure because Zack's AoE taunt is conditional. You know, you need the EX up plus mixed kit with magic and melee, and also his shield is hit or miss, right? It's either going to nullify the damage or he's going to eat chunks. Snow is just being on the battlefield reduces brave damage and HP damage overall. I will make a note that after being used to playing with Porom and Hope so much, Snow's HP damage reduction wasn't as significant as I thought it would be. I ran him a bunch just to test them out. It does not save runs as well as Hope and Porom, of course, because it's 20% reduction, right? I believe. Yes, it's 20% reduction to Hope's 40 and to Porom's 60. So it isn't a fair comparison, but I will say it is a nice bonus, but not something to rely on. His Brave Refund is amazing. First of all, AoE taunts all around, right? And the upkeep is insane. You know, it has so many uses of Steel Guard that, and the taunt lasts 5 turns from that, and then his EX.
Oh, he also refreshes it with his EX. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, and then his EX is also refreshing the AoE taunt. So at all times, AoE taunt is very, very good. We don't have any other character who can even compete with that. All the other long taunts are single target, and then Bosch's is very limited time. Snow is just, as long as enemies are tauntable, the taunt will always be up, which is why in the next month or two, we're going to start having enemies that either can't be taunted or enrage when they are taunted, because I think they realize they overdid it with Snow's kit, and the enemies will never hit anyone else with a single target attack. And you know, he gets hit enough, it turns into 0 damage. So that is something to watch out for. But man, AoE, the Brave Refund means once his Steel Guard's going, he's never going to be broken. You can attack without impunity, and just a lot going for him. The only downsides is later on, eventually coming up soon, once Brave damage reduction starts replacing defense spikes and chaos, his Brave shaving abilities do drop significantly. And Kreese was saying that, you know, if the ice is a problem, you could just not use it. But also, besides that, he has very little Brave shaving ability. And it looks good right now in Synergy. It looks good while he's a current character, but in about a month or two, once that change kicks in, he has less Brave shaving capabilities than Zack by far. And Zack's getting another upgrade coming up soon with character boards, so Zack still stays relevant in terms of being a tank and doing damage, which is why
I said it in chat, but Zack's going to be doing more damage even right now than Snow will per turn.
Yes,
because he has multiple HP hits on one of his base abilities, so that makes a huge difference.
Which is also why people are saying if you really, really don't want to invest in Snow for some reason, you will be fine with Zack. He is getting another upgrade coming up as a tank. If you play smarter, you really don't need that AoE taunt. His shields will hold up. He will do more damage. But I just really like tanks. I like Snow's playstyle. Just passively reducing damage and holding all the enemy attention and pumping out HP damage, right? Like, it's win-win-win here. Brave shaving is his only downside, and that's not significant enough to affect your decision yet.
You're going to bring somebody else to probably cover that role. I mean, unless you're going full defense, and at that point, you probably don't need it, very truthfully. Yeah, I said this in my tier list video. You know, he, on paper, you know, we knew from the Japanese players he was good. You know, you go and you look on the infographic, you look on Dissidia DB, you look on Safina's database, and I mean, you knew he was good on paper. You watched videos and you saw how good, but man, when you start playing with him, he is really, really good. And I'm not just talking about in synergy. I'm talking about, infamous elements saying the same thing, out of synergy. He's very, very powerful. He tanks excellently. He does his job amazing. And you're talking about damage potential. I mean, look at, we're still here in this current LC in our extreme challenge, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Warrior of Light comes in and does the job without doing a lot of damage. Bosch comes in and does the job without doing a lot of damage. Galuf can come in without doing a lot of damage. Celeste can come in without, these characters are not doing tons of damage, and they're still relevant because they're good at doing what they're supposed to do, which is tanking. And if that's what you need him to do, he is going to do that very, very well for a long time, and he is really good at it. It's ridiculous.
Snow definitely has an advantage where he has a pretty sizable brave regen. He doesn't have to worry about getting broken for the most part. So he can just keep dropping damage without caring whatever's going to happen. But do not rely on him to be offensive. He is no Zack, as we've said a couple times, for offensive capabilities.
Yeah. Yeah, another question about my hair. So I'm not wearing my headset. I am using a different microphone. So my hair has been the same length pretty much since I've done this show. Yeah. Anything else about anything? I think I saw Heaven maybe earlier was talking about his spheres and his healing. He does have that AA that allows him to give healing to the party,
which again I feel is a bonus and not something to be relied on for sure.
Oh, yeah, right.
Just not, yeah. So don't think you can bring Snow and then not need a healer, because it just won't work that way.
But he does have interesting.
Unless it's going to be all single target hits.
Yeah.
On HP hits, and he'll just be targeting Snow. He's pretty fine there, from what I've been able to tell.
Yeah.
He does have an interesting sphere set in ABC, so you can throw some healing spheres on him, you can throw some tank spheres on him, some damage spheres on him. So if you're into that game, there is a lot of possibilities with the kind of spheres you can put on him and maybe give him a little bit boost or keep him around a little bit longer, bring in some. Final ASIM's asking, do you think he's good for Entropy 7? Oh, Entropy 7 specifically. I'm not sure about Entropy 7 specifically. If Black Cloud's on, he might be able to answer that. I know he's very good for Entropy 11, so he actually really can carry you on Entropy 11. So, but yeah, Black Cloud's saying Entropy 7 should be fine. Yeah. So
he'd be able to just neuter the beetles that are dangerous because they go so fast if they break something. So he will ignore that mechanic altogether.
Yep, that's why we keep Black Cloud around, so he can tell us those things. So thank you, Black Narrow, Black Cloud. So we did have a chaos fight, and it's
podcast polls, Mark.
Oh, podcast polls. What were they?
I even have it on the outline this week.
Yeah, I didn't look on the outline. That was my problem. I thought I would skip ahead. It happens in church too, and I don't look at the bulletin, and I miss offering or the Lord's Prayer or something. So, yeah, let's go to podcast. I never missed the sermon, though. Let's get to podcast polls. Yeah, on this, there was going to be four people pitying, 4 people spending gems, 48 ticketing. Wow. I'm surprised not many more using gems, and 11 skipping. Of those who were going to get Cinque, 27 keep her at EX, 6 realize her, and 10 using her at full realization, 3-3. On the other hand, of those planning to get Snow, yeah, if you go and fill the poll out while I'm doing it, people, it doesn't work very well. I can't see the numbers go up though. For those getting Snow ZX, 4 keeping it realized or keeping it at EX, 9 realizing, 1 person using only 1 ingot, 2 people using 2 ingots, and 35 fully realizing Snow. for I think all three of us did that very thing, fully realized Snow. So he is really good, and I think if you fully realize him, you will not regret it. Obviously, if you did not get him or skip on him, you'll be able to live, especially if you have some other tanks in your disposal. And there are, as we're going to talk about here in a second, a lot of other tanks. So now let's talk about the Chaos event. Kreese, did you just kind of want to walk through basically what the event is, and then we'll talk a little bit about the fight?
Talk through the Chaos fight, and I also shared Macnol and it looks like it was Macnol and Scott Ong who put together this Chaos guide on the DecidiaInfo.com website, so I shared that link there. This is a 2-wave Chaos fight. Both waves are weak to ice. The first wave is 2 Mariliths that resist fire. They do a couple of fire attacks. You might remember these guys from appearing in a couple events and a couple of early summon fights, I think 2. I don't remember exactly where they've been anymore.
We've had them in some type of entropy,
I think
right?
one Marilith was also in Dimensions End Entropy Tier 3, is where I recall it most recently from. Basic idea is that they have single target multi-brave hit attacks, Sword Dance and Absolute Chaos. They can inflict a lot of debuffs if they want to. Absolute Chaos does a max brave down, max HP down, and a poison effect. They have a pretty common AoE Brave plus HP attack they do called Raining Swords, which also causes them to gain Brave, I think based on Int Brave before they even do any Brave hits. So that can do a lot of damage to the party if you're not careful. And when they die, they will do a Raining Swords before they basically disappear from the fight. You can avoid that killing attack, that last-ditch Raining Swords, by a couple mechanisms. One is if you kill them in summon, they will not trigger it. And 2 is if you kill them during a chain attack, they will not trigger it. I think if they're paralyzed, you can avoid it too, but I'm not 100% certain on that. Wave 2. Oh, wait. Macnol and Scott Ong actually have a list of things that do it. Paralyze, silence, and freeze will all stop it from dealing damage. So that's a good way to deal with it. Second wave is a single target big tanky guy called Bastion Giant. This guy highly resists magic, is immune to max HP down, so you can't do any Yuffie shenanigans where you take the max HP down debuff from the first wave and bring it to the Bastion Giant wave. So keep that in mind. The big gimmick with Bastion Giant is that it will do multiple attacks in a row. So every turn it takes, it will do 2 to 3 actions. So beware of that and be ready. Snow completely neuters this wave, so I don't even know what the boss does, really. He did nothing when I fought him. He just died slowly. Do you know anything about what he does, Mark? Because I genuinely don't.
He's really not the challenge in this fight. I mean, and even that being said, I mean, his gimmick is he gets lighter, right? The more the fight goes on and gets faster and does more consecutive actions. But, I mean, the real cheese behind here is bring a friend Leo and basically do skill 2 and delay him to death with your other characters doing damage. If you bring your own delayer, you're probably going to delay him to death. So the general problem is wave 1, the 2 Mariliths. That being said, Snow, Zack, Warrior of Light, Galuf, Infamous Element said killing them with a Galuf counter didn't trigger their attack. Edge, Evade All, Bosch can absorb it, Celeste can absorb it. There were so many options. Riku brought WTB. Riku brought Ash. I think in the extreme challenge, or maybe just the regular TCC challenge, to paralyze them. I mean, there are so many ways, and. So that's all you can bring tons of tanks to deal with the Mariliths. You can evade the AoE attacks. You can evade the explosions. They explode when they die, right? Or you can tank it. You can heal it up. I mean, Hope and Snow. My first run was Hope, Snow, Lightning. Hope and Snow just neutered them completely. They were doing nothing. And the little they were doing was regen, so it was just nothing. If you time it well, especially time Snow's AA. Or, excuse me, Hope's AA. That being said, we're at a point where we have enough powerful DPS. You can DPS check this and get around that mechanic, and they still won't kill you. So you can bring Aranea, Leo, and Vayne, or Aranea or Leo, Vayne, Lightning, and kill them without them doing anything. So I mean, our roster is so wide. We have so many good characters that are Heaven had a Vincent Beatrix run not complete that they were doing nothing. Yeah, that I was trying to do something with Vincent and Beatrix because I hadn't had that, they weren't on the TCC challenge, and so there are some things you can do even though Beatrix gets resisted in the second wave.
A couple people are mentioning in chat that if you do not have a tank for this chaos fight, then the second wave is very dangerous because the Bastion Giant will basically kill someone when it takes an action.
Well, unless
if you don't have a last stand active.
No, unless, I mean, either you bring a tank or you bring the DPS, like I was just talking about. If you bring the super DPS delayers, it's not going to act. I mean, it just won't get a turn.
If you delay it to oblivion.
I mean, I don't think it got in my first two runs. My first run was Snow, Hope, Lightning. My second run was Aranea, Vayne, and Leo. I don't think it acted in either of those battles.
To add to the discussion, when we were testing out the TCC challenge,
Leon, sorry, I forgot that was one of the ones I forgot to mention. Leon can cheese this fight too. Yeah.
I was gonna say, we wanted to see if you debuffed enough, if the bosses would stop killing you. No, you really need a tank. I think we tried bringing a bunch of like really, really heavy debuffers like Ferris and Lilithset just to see if you can survive Sword Dance. Even with the debuff, Sword Dance will wipe your party most of the time, and the Giant will just destroy you. So definitely can't debuff this. Got a tank.
Yeah, I think like Heaven said, I think the Beatrix Vincent combo might be able to do it especially if you have the right third person. But yeah, Lilithset, Ferris, those debuffs were not able to take care of it at all.
Yeah, and
blind works. Yeah, Wakka's blind works, and of course evasion works too. So big healing. I'm sorry,
it says it's debuffable. Yeah, no, but I'm saying most debuffers won't get through it. You need something really potent, like a 70-80% attack down or something like that. But I was just gonna say, Mark, that this is why I prefer characters that are in the player's hands that deal with buffs and tanking rather than debuffs. And I'm just gonna spread my debuff hate and enemy phase hate as much as I can.
Yeah, Yat Pact is asking if Leo, Aranea, and Y'shtola. I mean, Y'shtola's not the best probably to use in this particular fight, but those three are going to take care of it without a problem. So, we did have a TCC challenge. Now, this is a TCC challenge in 2 parts, and we may kind of continue this going forward in some different ways. So, we went from kind of an easy TCC challenge with the last time, to banning for this event the synergy characters, which is Cait, Sith, Snow, and Cinque. And in addition to that, banning Galuf, Zack, Warrior of Light, Lightning, Yuffie. Yuffie can cheese it. Hope, Porom, Y'shtola, Leo, Aranea, Friend Aranea. That was the regular TCC challenge. We did get several submissions to that, so I'll read them. Ganro, now WTB, as I said, Riku did the Penelo Ashe Vayne clear, so Ashe gets some love there. Alex, Volt, Chris5258, one of our fellow streamers, Meow Defo, Rubber Cat, Gallon, OPCP, Scott Ong, Boy Kazith, one of our good friends, DJ Quibi, Jealous, Pikachu, and Yoshi Pasta. They all participated in the TCC challenge. A lot of Leon. So most of these runs, you either had Leon or Bosch. There was one Celeste. Rubber Cat did Aerith, Dark Knight Cecil, and Dark Knight Cecil was great for this one too. Celeste. Setzer, Meow Defo did a Setzer, so you can freeze them to stop that. And so there was 2 Chris did Setzer as well. Volt Surge did Ash and Edge, and they were able to deal with that. Alex, I was really impressed with this run. Wakka, Kamari, and Titus. That's an impressive run. So got to show some love to Alex there. So check him out. But yeah, Wakka can blind them. And then Bosch, Ganro, and Riku did none. We did an additional extreme challenge with the same ban list, but no friend unit at all. And you sadists actually did more completes of the extreme run than the regular run. There were more submissions to the extreme challenge than the regular challenge, because apparently you people can't get enough of pain. So the Nakitana, Slide, Clay, Strafe, and Cernina, Final ASIM, MZ Pro, Shugo, Snoopball, Vane Novus, Masalino, Weird, Dreamy, Volt, KDG, and Threads, Lizette, Inkwelder, who I've been subscribed to Inkwelder's YouTube channel forever, not just 2 days ago. Check Inkwelder out. He is the Tonberry King, and you can check out TonberryTroop.com, but he also has his own YouTube channel, so make sure you check out Inkwelder's YouTube channel. He has good commentary runs. Amen, Infamous Element, C-Sam, Maki, Destroth, Red, Swifty, Big Al, Kurath, Black Nero, hey, Black Nero towards the top, Buddy, NC2, NC2, and Aodin Phoenix. Aodin Phoenix with a 4 ingot complete with Pinello, Yuri with 1 ingot, and Leon. So again, a lot of Leons, Bosches, any other kind of strategies besides Leo and Bosch. Edge Shadow, Destro did Edge Shadow Selfie to get those evasions. Infamous did Pinello Shadow Bosch. Eamon did Rosa Edge and Dark Knight Cecil. Anything besides that in terms of Snoopball did Vane Noctis Rem. So I haven't. I'll have to watch that one. Vane Novus did Pinello Edge Machina. So yeah, lots of different Wakka again. So as difficult of a fight, I think that's at the end of the day, that's the whole point of this. As difficult of a fight as this was, and needing to have, to get around the Marilus and to get around the mechanics of the big castle thing, there's just so many options in our kit right now. If you've been playing for a couple, months, there's so many options to get around these mechanics that you can be creative. You don't just have to go to the, snow or, just the meta. There's all kinds of different options. And so, I mean, what do you guys think? Is that, does that make the game more interesting? Does that make the game less interesting? Mino, kind of what's your take on that? Being able to bring 20 different characters or even more probably to this fight and beat it.
That was actually going to be one of our podcast questions. But
Really?
I guess we could answer it now.
Okay.
Unless you want to wait.
No, we can wait. If that's I didn't look at the
Okay.
podcast questions, so
Yeah, no worries.
why would I do that? I never look at those. Yeah, all right. So thank you all for participating in the TCC Challenge and the TCC Challenge Extreme Edition. If you like that, which apparently you did, maybe we'll do that moving forward. If you have some different ideas, come in our Discord and let us know. So as of 4 minutes ago, we have a new event. And we're not going to be talking about the Chaos or the TCC Challenge because we haven't had a chance to play it yet. But this new event does bring us a new character and an old character who gets a realization. So, Kreese, assuming, because I again haven't been looking at the outline, assuming I'm in the right place, did you want to bring us through what Ramza gets?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Ramza's EX realization before we talk about Jack, because this will be a little faster.
Yes.
As you probably recall, Ramza got a rework when he got his 7D Awakening, and his kit has not really changed since then. His realization brings a huge number of changes to the way his kit performs, however. By just booking him, his EX ability becomes a much better variant. It now deals HP splash damage. It has a Brave gain before the HP attacks or the Brave hits, and it inflicts the debuff Enervate to all targets, so it's easier for him to apply it to multi-targets now. It also improves all of his Brave Plus and HP Plus variants, with the noted benefit where Brave Plus 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 becomes a no turn count attack now. So once you get Ramza to full stacks of Shout and Pep, his Brave and HP Plus variants become 0 turn counts. So basically, Ramza becomes ultra turn turn efficient. As you realize his weapon further and further, he starts to get he gets benefits where he starts with all his buffs active, and he gets improvements to his EX ability Enervate in the form of Enervate Plus, Enervate Plus Plus, and Enervate Plus Plus Plus, where they all just become better versions of the basic ability where it deals more HP splash damage, more Brave hits, has bigger Brave gain, and if you fully realize him to its true and use Enervate Plus Plus Plus, he does not leave himself open for breaks after using Enervate Plus Plus Plus. And that's pretty much it. Basically, he becomes much stronger. He can maintain his buffs longer because he starts with them active. He doesn't get any new ability uses, but the fact that he's able to keep them up longer because he's starting with more turns of it already is really nice. His EX ability will now extend Shout longer, so he will not have that fall off as easily. He's just all around better. His one downside remains that he doesn't have any healing in his base kit, but he's a very strong offensive supporting unit. I think that's all I have to say about him right now because I haven't had a chance to mess with him yet. Mino?
Yeah, same. This is the first time in a long time that we've had characters drop on the show, so we didn't get to, play with them and do as much research as I'd like before talking about them. First time in a while. I can't really confidently speak about the characters because they just dropped 7 minutes ago. But so we were only talking theory right now. That's my disclaimer. Ramza made it on my list of must pull, most efficient entropy, characters. So I think he's very good. That research comes from him being used a lot for the next month or two. As Chris said, great offensive support. I feel like they're releasing characters in sets now that all do pretty much the same. They fit the same theme, so you can pick and choose between the handful you get each month. We said at the beginning of the month, there's a lot of characters this month that reduce Brave and HP damage taken. Ramza's gonna follow the trend on regen characters. If you guys have noticed, a lot of our supports lately have been boosting Int Brave and Brave regen by a ton. And Roms is just another one of those characters. Solid iBrave buff for the group, 50%. Throws on his own Brave regen. And of course, he just steadily batteries the party with his Brave and HP pluses. Just once again, HP damage potential very, very high. Brave shave potential on the lower side, but as Mark says, you'll bring somebody else in that role. The problem is just I think there's so many of these characters close together that if you bring like Snow and Ramza and one DPS, the one DPS will probably have trouble carrying all the Brave shaving. So just something to consider with these low Brave shaving characters when you're making your team comps.
Well, and if you bring Snow and Ramza, then you have to maybe think about it, another healer. So either you need to bring a DPS that can heal like Yuri,
or
no
Brave shave whatsoever.
Yeah, Paladin Cecil would be another one. Or you bring another support, and then you're going a very defensive team, and hoping that the auras are enough. But
yeah. But I do think very, very strong character. If you didn't pick up any of the Brave regeners, who did we have this month? Aerith is in that party. Pinello, another one that was close. Lena's coming up possibly next week.
Yeah.
Again, I feel like they're throwing characters in sets at us. But to be fair, not to be that
Wakka.
guy that says, "Oh yeah, Wakka, you're right. Thank you." Not to be that guy who says don't pull for X because Y is right around the corner. The thing is that Lena is an insanely good Brave regener and she packs her own heals, which is more than what most of these other regeners can say. So that is something to consider. But I do think Ramza is a very, very strong pick and a very, very good entropy plug. But we'll probably have a much more in-depth retrospective next week.
Are you planning to 3-3 him?
He was on my plans, and then, as you know, I got really drunk one night and 3-3'd Yang.
Yeah.
And so now Ramza was in my lineup for 11. If I can fit Yang in there in his place and make it, then I will be passing on Ramza. So we will see when that drops. Also, I was talking about content dropping on our podcast night. I just realized by the in-game announcement, that next entropy tier is going to be on next week's podcast night. And if trend follows, so will the not awakening wave, but EX plus rollout of Cypher and Lena, and that's gonna suck. So I really hope I'm wrong, and I really hope they stagger that so we do get time with the characters. But yeah, anything to add though, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, Ramza's always been good in this game, but he's always been kind of in that nebulous support. I mean, kind of Sarah and Lisette are in that era where they don't heal, but they provide something really good as a support. So they kind of shift from support to that third slot utility character. And so Ramza is that, and I mean, the one thing he brings is free turns and therefore free damage and fairly decent buffs. I mean, his auras are not as good as some other characters are, but he is pretty good at what he does. And a lot of people already had him. You can pick him up in the EX shop as a token character. So yeah, he does heal with Rosa's Sphere.
He's also ridiculously turn efficient, and we need to reiterate that.
A lot of people do.
Plus and HP plus will not have increased turn count once he's using those, which means he's having a lot of free turns occurring.
If he's like his old version, his old EX version, it also means that buffs will run out on him very fast because he's burning through free turns so fast.
Right, Slide is saying it's like saying Vayne needs to heal. Right, and I mean, I think that's fair. He's not, even though he has kind of a support set, he's really not a support character that you're bringing to do the support things. He's bringing, turns. He's bringing damage over turns and support. And there's a lot of utility to that. So yeah, exactly. Vayne is doing the same thing. He's doing a crazy ton of damage in very few turns because he gets tons of free turns, and he brings some support too because he's really good. So I think he's a great character, and a lot of people have him. I don't know if you probably should chase him unless he's a favorite of yours, or if Jack's a favorite of yours and you end up getting him. But I figure a lot of people already have him, so he's going to be a good support or good another character to have in your roster. I have not decided if I'm going to just book him or 3-3 him. I probably won't 3-3 him unless I really need him somewhere down the line. But I think he can work with a various amount of ingot investment, correct? If I remember what his set is. He can work at various different starts, but obviously
Ramza definitely works best with being fully realized, but his base kit's all there just booked. It's just that he gets a lot more combat longevity as you invest more. His EX becomes a better button to push as you invest more.
Yeah. I just want to remind people that Ramza was probably the number one slotted character in the entropy tier 1. So if you don't feel like moving him, that is something to consider. A lot of us players who have been playing since entropy dropped, everyone threw Ramza in there. So ask yourself if you really want to move him out.
Well, if Black Cloud is still watching, tell us if your Ramza is free like my Ramza, because my Ramza is not in tier 1 at the moment. Where would I put him? Where's he gonna go? Anywhere probably.
Very popular. Yeah. I mean, he's just strong.
Yeah. But and he might work with just a book there in tier 11. We'll see. Yep. J.A and Black Cloud are both saying tier 11. So it's magic resistance. Yeah. So well, maybe I'll try him without any ingots invested and see how it goes. But people are still using him with, have been using him in chaos without his realization. So, he is really good at what he does. So, build around him and, throw him into a lot of teams and, Yeah, I think you're going to be great. So we did get a new character, and he gets some more stuff, and he's not from...
He's also unambiguously just a damage dealer. He doesn't do
Yes.
anything except deal damage.
He's from Type 0, not from Final Fantasy Tactics, and I've never, ever said that opposite thing. And you can't prove it because I deleted that video. So, yeah, tell us about Jack. What's Jack do besides damage?
He's designed to do a lot of damage. His basic gimmick is that he does increase critical damage, and he also triggers an additional ability if he breaks a target with his Brave Plus or HP Plus, or if he breaks or attacks an enemy that's broken with his basic abilities. The way it works is if he breaks or attacks a broken target with those abilities, after triggering the ability, he triggers something called Deliverance, which deals another Brave gain plus Brave plus HP attack, and then moves his next turn to before the target's next turn if his next turn would have been later than the target's next turn. Which means basically you can set him up so that he takes a turn, his turn shifts before the target, he takes a turn, he takes another turn right before the target, and he continues that as long as he has ability uses. Basically is how you can run it if you want to. Beyond that, his basic mechanic is dealing a lot of damage in a single turn. His first ability, Ninja Slice, is a single target Brave plus HP attack, deals bonus critical damage, and also always deals critical damage if the enemy is not targeting him. His second ability is an AoE Brave plus HP attack that deals split HP damage. And his EX ability is where things kind of go off the rails. It's on a slow recharge. It's called Transience. And what it does is before he does anything, he reduces his own HP to 1. He applies a special buff on himself called Soul Harvest and a generic Evasion Up buff. The Evasion Up is for 1 turn, Soul Harvest is for 3. And then he gains Brave based on the HP damage or HP he consumes from himself, then does full AoE HP damage to the enemies, then does multiple Brave AoE Brave hits, and then another full AoE HP attack. And Soul Harvest causes him to heal HP based on HP damage dealt as long as the buff is active. So basically, he risks himself to deal a lot of damage very fast. His EX Realization furthers this. It increases the amount of Brave he gains based on HP damage consumed. He gets a free ability use after using his EX ability. He starts with a fully charged EX gauge and unlocks Last Stand so that he won't die as often. And he unlocks better Brave plus plus and HP plus plus variants, and Transient becomes more Brave hits, and Deliverance becomes a better button to push too. So basically, Jack is going to be stealing a lot of turns in co-op fights. And that's all I have to say about him. He just does a lot of damage really fast. Mino, do you have any thoughts on him so far, or do you really need to process what he's going to be doing in practice first?
I have some thoughts, but again, I think we're going to come back with a retrospective next week to really appreciate the characters. I really like the concept of his kit. He plays a lot like an FF11 Dark Knight, even more than Dessel did. I really love Dessel when he got his changes because he spent HP to do damage. And now he has an ability to gain it back, but not reliably. Here, Jack really does have the whole package of spending HP for damage and then gaining it back with more damage. I really Soul Harvest. That's actually a Dark Knight move, actually, looking at his buffs. So I never played Type 0. I was under the impression he represented the Samurai class. But it looks like
So did I from playing Type 0.
Yeah. So it looks like he has a lot of Dark Knight in his kit, though. But I really like the concept. Again, not a high pick for me because of how selfish a DPS it is. I usually like characters with some sort of utility here. He's got 0 ores going on. That's not always necessarily a bad thing, just not someone I would pick for efficiency of pulls personally. But I think his concept is great. I can't wait to see his LD in Japan and his update later to see how they round out his kit. But definitely, I would say a lot of people think he's going to be another dodge character / dodge tank, sort of like 8 or not Shadow, I guess, kind. But I think the evasion is really there for him to blow HP to do damage and then come back from it, right? Not there to just dodge.
It's to
and
protect
tank
him from
hits.
dying until he gets
Exactly.
his health back.
Exactly. Like he's not another 8 or something. He's not a dodge tank. It's just there so he can come back. It just feeds into his DPS cycle / rotation, sort of. I will say that this is probably the final chance to pick up a solid melee DPS for a long while.
Yeah, we just walked through the entire list. There are lots of options actually here in the next couple months before Burst Era, but they're not new characters. So all the new characters are going to be kind of support, ranged, or mostly
there will
support.
Be melee.
But yeah, there are actually a lot.
Krish, Cyan, and Zidane in the next month is what we're predicting.
So Yida is coming back.
Oh, and Ida.
Cyan is coming back. Prish is coming back. Zidane is coming back. He's fairly good. Rajin is coming back, although he's got a little bit more of support kit. There was somebody else we're forgetting. Lion is coming back with her realization. So, I mean, there are other damage dealers, especially if you already have some of them. But he's probably going to do the most damage of anyone from now until Burst Era, right? You obviously could argue Squall with his burst weapon and LD is going to outdamage him pretty easily. But and then you're going to get a month or two into Burst Era, you're going to get a string of really strong melee DPS characters. So you're talking 4 months or so before you get, because people were asking, when's the next kind of power creep in terms of melee DPS or DPT, damage per turn. So yeah, I mean, he's going to be really powerful for a long time, but there are a lot of other characters. Zidane is one that people are going to overlook because he's on that banner with Keese, but people are going to be pulling for Keese, and Keese is really powerful. And if you pick up Zidane, he's actually not really bad, and he'll pair really well with Keese, actually. And there's a lot of other characters. We were talking earlier, but in one of our chats about characters like Yida and Lion and Preesh, and none of them are bad. So I mean, if you are looking, somebody was asking, is this a decent banner to pull on? Yeah, it has a really good kind of utility character in Ramza who's doing just free damage. It has a really strong AoE and single target melee damage dealer. So it's a really solid banner if you don't have either of these characters. Is it better than the Snow banner that's out? Yeah, maybe, and both characters are really good, but Sync's not bad damage dealer either, and Snow is amazing as a tank.
We're going to be seeing some range damage options coming next week.
And that's
we're going by the schedule we expect.
That's the other thing. You're not going to get a lot of melee physical damage, but you're going to get a ton of ranged damage, and the range damage that you're going to see is going to make Jack not look very impressive. I mean, just looking ahead, I spent some time today looking at some kits and kind of digging into the characters that are coming out, and Keese and Eldnarsh are just so broken. Cloud of Darkness is coming out too, and she's going to seem broken, but yeah, Eldnarsh and Keese are just ridiculous characters. They're both rain damage. Yeah, Trey's going to be right at the end of Burst Era. He's doing crazy damage. So there are some really powerful physical ranged characters. In Dimensions End, there are some things that resist just ranged or just melee, but mostly it's usually magic or physical. So, but yeah, there are a lot of other options, and there's tons of supports. There's just a lot of supports coming up in the next few months. So if you're missing supports, you're going to be in luck because there's a lot of options to pull on. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have him. I did my 13 ticket challenge and I got a dupe Ramza EX. So I'm not going to be able to play with Jack. If anybody else gets Jack, let us know. He's going to be good. I mean, I can't imagine you're not going to find use for him. The only downside I can see is, if you're not used to watching what you're doing when you're playing, he might end up dead. But just bring Snow and then it won't matter.
Jack is he's just a victim of timing, as certain characters were before him. I think his kit is very cool. I just think he is right before we start getting some truly broken characters, and then the power creep. It's all happening in about a month.
Yeah,
with the brave reduction.
I completely forgot Cypher is coming too, and he gets his EX realization, and J.A, thank you for that. Yeah, Cypher is a very good AoE damage dealer and debuffer. So, and GRW18's asking, yes, Eldnarsh is ranged. Eldnarsh from Final Fantasy, what is that, 11? Yeah, eye patch kid. He is ranged damage, complete ranged damage. He is not magic. He does not use magic. He throws his magical things. He doesn't use magic. He just
Kuja throwing his magic orbs. That counts as range.
He throws them at you. And if you have not looked ahead to Eldnarsh is just a ridiculous kit. Keese is a ridiculous kit. I'm not a big fan of the launch mechanic these days, but yeah, there's so much damage. I'm looking forward to seeing our friends the Tomberry Troop do these infographics for, you know, Cloud of Darkness and Keese and Eldnarsh, and, you know, because the kits are just huge, complex, complicated kits. So yeah, hey Resfoina, thank you. I hope you had a good stream. Hope you hey Resfoina, if you're on, did you pull on this banner, Jack and Ramza, and how did you do? Let us know. Check out Resfoina on Twitch and YouTube. She's a great content creator and a lot of fun. Had a little trouble with a recent pull, but she did end up getting snow, so we glad you got snow. So
in a gacha cycle, people are just going to get screwed by timing. That is it, period. Anyone that comes out before the next wave of power creep is just so unfortunately timed. Jack is unfortunately one of them, not in content power creep, but in character design power creep, where we start getting a lot of OP characters.
And character boards are coming right after him.
Yeah, there are a handful of characters that come out in the next month or two that are still usable in Lufania 8 months later. That's how broken some of these characters are. And Jack just has the unfortunate, the misfortune of coming right before them. And it just really sucks because, again, I think his kit is fantastic in concept, which is why I'm saying I can't wait to see what they do in the next tuning pass when he gets his LD, and see what they do with his kit, and maybe he fares a little better in terms of timing. But unfortunately, there's just always going to be characters like this, like the last 12 EX pluses that are released throughout the LDBT era. People can say they're fun, but no one's using them in Lufania or, you know, any of the relevant content. They'll run them in Synergy Raid or Synergy, you know, like co-ops, but, you know, you're not going to hear a lot of hubbub about like Thancred EX Plus or Laguna EX Plus or Alize EX Plus. Like, that's just unfortunate timing, and that's just the nature of gachas. People have hills and valleys, and I think Jack is just a very fun character that came at a very bad time.
Slide is telling us that we will hear about Laguna EX Plus.
Slide,
we cannot.
I wouldn't put it past you.
I cannot wait.
Slide, I actually do want to see that, because I hear the initial Lufania power creep is actually really, really nuts. So I if you can pull it off, I will be looking forward to it.
So we don't know, as we have not had the chance to use either of these characters, but it does seem like a decent banner. But it's also a banner that you can skip if you need to, because there's a lot of other things coming on the horizon. So we'll tell you a little bit more if we have some retrospective on these characters next week. And until then, you can jump on our Discord, and there's probably a few people with Jack on there who can tell you how they like the character and how he works. So, or you can check out some videos from the JP version of the game and watch him do his crazy amount of damage, because that's what Jack does. And watch Ramza get tons of free turns, because that's what he does. So let's move to host discussion. What's on the docket for today, gentlemen? And as always, you can ask a question in our Discord under podcast and host discussion or podcast questions.
Do we want to start with a simple question from Belucky first?
Sure.
Leave it up to you.
Okay, Balucky asks, what was the first RPG that you guys played? I'll go first because I remember what it was, and it's a little embarrassing. My first RPG, like full turn-based RPG, was Final Fantasy Mystic Quest.
Mine
Very
was
nice.
FF1. I remember as a very, very little kid, I think like elementary school, I didn't even know how to save in FF1. So I just replayed Garland's dungeon like 50 times or something. And the save systems back on the NES were terrible, not intuitive at all. Mark?
Yeah, so does Legend of Zelda count? Because that came out before Final Fantasy, right? So
I'm considering JRPG.
okay, so
not
Final Fantasy
like
would be my first one.
adventure RPG type
Yeah.
things.
So I played Final Fantasy when I was 8 or 9. Yeah. On Nintendo, yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, from Ink Welder, not Ice Welder, Breaker of Gotcha. How do the co-hosts feel about removing friends that keep their favorite character as their support? This is particularly tricky during summon board farming time if you are full on friends and everyone has logged in within the last couple days. Will feelings be hurt? Will people be disappointed they lost a strong support for having their favorite set, even though it's more personal? What are your thoughts on that sort of thing? So, removing friends because of their support choice.
Is this a shot at me, Ink? Because I'm always putting up like Shantoto or Sabin or something. I was so insulted when I switched my friend to Leo for the board farming. I had 3 people ping me on the server thanking me. Like it was a huge deal. Like people, people pinged me just to thank me for putting up a decent support. Now I know how people must feel when I put my favorites on. But hopefully Josh isn't still listening, but the only reason I actually switched to Leo was because I saw Josh switch to Leo for the board farming, and Josh is another person who always puts his favorites as his friend support, right? Like he runs with like Gao and a few others for the longest time. So I was like, if even Josh is going to give back to the community, I should do it too. So I put my boardless Leo on for board farming.
No, Inkwelder was taking a shot at Redbeard for his lion friend.
Wow.
Oh, poor Redbeard. That wasn't very nice of you, Inkwelder, from the Tonberry Troop. The opinions of the Tonberry Troop are not reflected by the Crystal Chronicles podcast, just FYI. No.
As soon as Special Boosted is done, I'm switching back to Tifo Friend until I have a better friend unit to share. Although maybe I'll start sharing Caius for the fun of it.
Yeah, I don't, especially with summon board grinding, I don't unfriend somebody because of their summon board unit unless they have and even then I usually don't, if their skill order, because let me tell you, if you're really into the summon board grind and you get a Leo friend who has their skills out of whack and you just are fast pressing skill 2 and all of a sudden it's the EX or it's skill 1, that really does screw you up. So I'm not a big fan of that, but usually I forget who it was that I brought, so I can't unfriend them unless I go through all of my friends, which I don't got the time to do. So you get a free pass this time. Whoever you are whose Leo skills are out of order, go check your Leo skills, make sure they're in the right order. But yeah, I'll either just kind of skip around or I'll wait till I'm at the end of a book. If I'm in the last 10 or 20 seconds of a book, then I'll bring a Caius friend or a Shantoto friend or a Lion friend. I don't care, right? And spend that extra minute, doing the content. But besides that, yeah, I'm not going to unfriend somebody or remove somebody because I don't like their friend unit. There's plenty of people who have decent friend units for me to do that.
I do not remove people either because of what friend unit they're sharing. What I will unfriend is if I track you down if you're switching around your abilities in weird orders.
Same.
That will get you unfriended if I find out who you are.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of switching. And it's probably mostly accidental. Like if you get a new character and the skills are out of order because, you got the EX before you got the AA, that kind of stuff. But yeah, check your friend support. Make sure the skills are in the right order. And if any of our friend support skills aren't in the right order, just ping us. Let us know. We'll be happy to change it because you might not know. All right,
yeah, I've seen Dream that all the time. Oh, I just want to say, chat is agreeing, basically arguing two sides, which is saying that Final Asum here says friend units are supposed to be for other people, so you shouldn't put your favorites up there, because it's a function for other players. And I get that. That's one side of the argument. But the other side of the argument is also like there's so few ways to communicate in this game that setting your favorites sort of like a little personality thing. But people generally agree that unfriending because of an optimal unit is kind of stepping over the line unless they change skill orders. So
well, Inkwelder's telling us he really asked the question because he's so popular that his friends list is full, and he needs space to make more friends because there's so many people asking him to friend him, and he can't friend any of them. So he doesn't want to feel guilty about unfriending people. So yeah, go ahead, Inkwelder. Unfriend people. You can search for the people who just aren't active. Sometimes that helps. But yeah.
That's what I do, I think. I think if it's been over a week since they've logged on, chances are they aren't coming back. I can't imagine any regular player wanting to miss a week of dailies or something like that. Man, I sound like an addict, actually.
Oh, you're being called out, for deleting Zero Lancer. You should ask for forgiveness. I'm sure it was an accident. So
03 Leo. What? Why would you put a 03 Leo on? All right, Lancer, I'll add you back, honestly. But I realized that 03 Leo doesn't apply the debuff when it came in, so it took significantly longer to, for board farming. And then I had no idea, I guess, that you were still around because I was like.
Wow,
I couldn't believe the gall of a 03 Leo. But no, sorry. The 03 Leo, it's too confusing when you're picking out a sea of Leos. I will admit that my crap Shantoto, at least Shantoto was okay for previous I think we ran the test on like Brothers or something like that, and she still has a good kill time on some Pandemonium and Brothers, but this time there's just no competing with Leo. So it really was a big difference. I even skipped Aranea's.
Yeah. All right. Hey, whatever. All right.
This won't be an argument any longer. No. As soon as we get out of the summon or the super synergy grind era, then we'll all be back to our random friends.
No one will care. They'll still mostly be Aranea and Leo, but yeah. All right. Next question.
JD Terraforce wants to ask, and this is a bit of a meta question, but we'll answer it anyways based on our personal opinions. Any must-have characters to pull for before Burst Era starts for people who are trying to save gems and only using tickets for now?
Well, I saw on Facebook again today. I don't even know why I go on Facebook, but immediately, as soon as the Tonberry troop shows the infographics or the Twitter announcement goes out that there's a new banner coming out, is Jack necessary? Well, no character's necessary. Did you not watch my tier list video? You tried to be very clear about all this, and we tried to do this every single week to tell you there's no necessary characters. That being said, there are some characters that are just bonkers powerful. Snow is one of those characters. He's just really, really good. Eldnarsh is really, really good. Arciella, personally, I think is amazing. She's coming up here. Keese is really good. I'm personally gonna skip him, but yeah, I mean all the supports, Alpha Node,
Eldnarsh. Yeah, there's a lot of strong characters coming out in the next 2 months before we expect Burst Era to start. So do you need any of them? You'll probably need one or two to deal with the late chaos spikes before Burst starts, but you probably can just be thrifty with your pulls if you want to be.
Yeah, so, maybe let's just pick one. What, here before Burst Era, kind of what's the one character you don't want to live without, personally?
Yeah, I was narrowing this down a lot. From here to Burst, the character that makes your life the easiest is Arciella, full stop. And a close second is Eldnarsh. Yeah. The rest are skippable if you are an extreme hoarder. But
those are
the one character.
Those are my only two pities before Burst Era are Eldnarsh and Arciella. So
yeah, well, I'm not surprised because we discuss this stuff all the time in our channels. But yeah. Arciella first place easily. Eldnarsh close second. And then
Arrow is going for Freya, so Freya does get a decent
Again,
EX.
there's going to be a lot of solid characters in the next 2 months before
Yes.
we expect Burst Arrow to start. Just because we're saying these are the only tip-top meta characters does not mean the others are bad. Or
But yeah,
anything, so
Black Cloud is
there's
reminding
going to
us.
be a lot of options.
Black Cloud is reminding us the Raging Zaz banner is very, very good. Garnet is on the Eldnarsh banner, and Garnet's EX realization is amazing. She summons Alexander. I mean, how more cool could that be? Yeah, GRW18 Zaz is Lefania approved.
A lot of good characters. We were
But
just
yeah,
saying if I had to pick one.
Yeah, no, there's
if you had to narrow it down to one.
I mean, there's what, 15, 20 good characters from now until
the
Lefania.
Just trying to minimize your pulls until Burst Era, then yeah, it's like Arciela and Eldnarsh, and try to coast with everything else, with anything else you have. If you don't care, then yeah, there's a lot of amazing characters coming.
Yes, hang on. We did forget Cyan. So
chat's saying Raijin and Saz have been used in Lufania. Okay, so what I'm saying is right now for the Hump 2 burst in that initial Hell month coming up of Alexander Chaos, Trey Chaos, and a few surrounding those with raid events and stuff, insanely hard chaoses with very low completions, Arciela and or Eldnarsh will get you through those with style. If you want to talk about Lufania, sure, Saz and Raijin are being used in Lufania, but are the characters released in Lufania actually better? Yes. People bringing Saz and Raijin are flexing or doing budget runs because they can't pull. But if you're running, say, like Gladio,
watch
and the recent burst character, you're not going to need Saz and Raijin.
Watch who they're bringing Saj and Raijin with.
I mean, look at who they're bringing them with. Gladio and BT synergies, guys. Like this is like saying if you asked me this question 6 months ago,
Leon is meta.
Would I recommend like Leon, who shows up in Chaos still, even though he launched in the Cosmos era, or would I recommend, the characters that actually release around said Chaos, right? Like it's not just because they can be used. Look, people said Aphmau can be used for every single Chaos. How many of you guys are out there running Aphmau for every single Chaos or Realm? Let's be real, guys. Just because they can doesn't mean most players will.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think like we've said, there's so many characters from now until Burst that are really, really good. You're probably not going to get them all unless you're willing to spend a lot of money or you're really, really lucky. And even if you got them all, you're not going to be able to realize them all. But try to pick, and that's what I was trying to get to the point of. Who are you targeting? For me, I'm targeting Arciela and Eldnarsh. Those are the two, the only two I'm willing to spend gems on. Yeah, I'm going to put tickets on a lot of other characters, but I'm going to put 200 tickets on and walk away if I don't get them. And I'll be fine, right? Now, I'd like all the characters because I'd like all the characters. They'd be great. And I have tons of characters that I can realize without investing anything because there's tons of EX realizations come up, so don't forget those. So... yeah, Kreese, I don't... Did we get an answer from you? Kind of what's your priority?
I agree with you guys. Arciela and Eldnarsh are the tip-top characters.
They're so broken. They're so broken. They're so good. Arciela does everything I would ever want a support to do, and Eldnarsh is just mind-blowingly ridiculous. It took me a while to just even wrap my head around all that he does, but it's ridiculous. So good luck.
Let's go with a less controversial question that won't churn up quite so much argumenting, I guess. VL asks, what's everyone's happiest poll that made you jump for joy? If you can remember back to being joyful.
Yeah,
the last part was added myself.
What's joy? I don't remember that. So what's the last kind of surprise poll? Is that the question?
What's everyone's happiest poll that made you jump for joy in the game?
I have to go back and look here. Mino, do you have a...
Getting Beatrix very early on when I was polling when Schurfer event first dropped made me really happy. I was so excited to get her kit.
Lion on 13 Ticket Challenge was a very happy surprise for me. It was a favorite that I really didn't want to invest in. So 13 Ticket Challenge got her. So that was really, really good. Before that, Shantoto EX, which I chased for a year and finally got when the 70 Awakenings came, I guess, in 45k gems. So not a terrible. Well, I got both of Warrior of Light and Shantoto in 45k gems, so I thought it was a pretty good banner. Mark, did you have yours yet?
Yeah, I'll just go to one of the more recent ones. I was originally planning to spend gems on the Lightning Shadow Hope banner, and I didn't have Lightning. I was one of the few people that did not have Lightning. I decided to spend tickets and be risky with my 200, and I got all 3 of those EXs in 109 tickets. So I guess that was my really good pull here in recent history.
Ready for the next question?
Sure.
Sism asks, with the burst era looming, are any hosts going to pity a burst weapon? I think he already knows the answer to 2 of these people, so I think he's really looking for my answer.
Yeah, Kreese, what are you?
But I'll let you 2 answer after I do. I am only planning at the moment to pity Arden's burst, looking at the burst weapons, and likely Lightning. Arden's probably my favorite FF15 character. I thought he was an interesting villain. And Lightning because I like Final Fantasy 13.
I am going to get Squall's burst. I don't know how I'm going to get it. Because what's his name, the funky looking dandelion guy, he's also good, and Squall's burst is on his LD banner as well. So if I don't get Squall's burst, well, I am pitying Squall's LD. I may wait, but I don't think I'll probably be able to wait. So I'll probably end up pitying Squall's burst if I need to, because he's my favorite character, and I'm gonna have him. Not that everybody's he's overrated and everything else. Well, I'm gonna get a burst for the month and use him through that character and enjoy it. So, yep. So I'm definitely gonna pity that. And there's a few others that I'm gonna try to get. Arden obviously is really, really powerful. Yeah.
Favorites: Shantoto is a planned pity. Meta Noctis is the only other planned pity. The rest would be bonus for now, and hopefully Jack down the line is going to be an instant pity too.
Yeah, I think the
Watch
only
Seymour that gets the burst.
I think Seymour gets the burst. I think the only other protagonist that is on my favorite list would be Paladin Cecil. So he might be one that I'll have to go. Yeah, hey, Final Asim is asking, are you going to spend 175,000 gems? It actually would be more than that, 200,000 gems for the LD and the burst weapon if you had to pity both. I am willing to spend 200,000 gems on Squall if I need to. So that is my answer.
The EX, so
I have the EX already. But yeah, if you're going for Arden, is it still 75 for the
you're
EX?
Right. Yes. Yes, you're right. For Arden, it's 200. You're right.
Yeah, for Arden.
Well, Arden, it could theoretically be 275,000 if you get really unlucky and can't get the EX, the LD, or the burst.
So yeah, it would be 275 for Arden to pity all 3 of them. Yeah.
Mathematically, that is
very unlikely.
Practically impossible.
But it's possible. So
I could potentially pity 4 Ardens down the line.
Me too.
Macno can probably do like
Macno could pity every burst weapon. There's a few of our I saw 5D PZ, he's here, and although he spent some, so I don't know what he's on right now. Hiramora Cat, of course, and Macnol. I think Inkwelder's more than he has more than I do, right? Oh, Soul DFFOO has a ton of resources too. So all those people floating at about 1.5 million or gems, they're willing, they can pity whatever. I don't know what else they're saving for, so I would think it'd be hilarious, if you've saved 1.5 million gems, why not just have every burst weapon? Go to town. It's gonna make content for the next year, no problem whatsoever.
Oh, hold on. Sorry. Yoshipasa makes a good point, or at least reminded me of something. We're getting EX tokens regularly down the line, too.
Yeah.
So you could just use tokens on the EX like you would use weapon tokens on the 35 here. So I guess you only need to budget 200K. So that's not too bad.
Yeah. All right. Is there any other questions?
Plenty. Shoots asks, if you could purple an older EX plus character right now for free, who would you pick?
I saw this question earlier, but I did not look.
Yeah,
Let me look at my
I had an answer that I
list here.
don't have in my head
Out
right
of the
now.
EX weapons I have that I have not purpled, probably Rem, because I would have gotten a lot of mileage out of her. She's such a strong burst healer with a lot of turn manipulation. I would have gotten a lot of use out of her. Um, Out of EXs that I did not get, probably I would have liked to turn around and just get Ignis's kit magically.
Yeah. If we're talking about EXs we don't even have, if I could go back in time, I would have pulled and purpled Bosch. I feel like he had a very good run, a very fun tank to have, and I love tanks, and I'm sad I missed out on him.
Yeah, if we're talking about characters we've missed, Rem is the one I've always brought up that I still haven't gotten her EX. Characters that
How
I have
about
not.
characters you do have?
Characters that I
you
do have that I haven't even booked. I have not booked Sarah, and of course Sarah's a really good character. She doesn't even have a book, so I'd probably jump her up and use her somewhere. I have a 3/3 Ignis because he's awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Loot asks, JP players months ago said that mid to late chaos is the most enjoyable time in DFFO due to numerous reasons such as all characters being usable. Now that GL is in that time frame, do the hosts share that same sentiment? I think Mito's already said his opinion, but I'll let him repeat it for the podcast.
Mine's is long and ranty. I'll go at the end.
I've been okay with this era, though it has become a little more dull. I've been able to slide by well, I guess that's not true. Once Aranea dropped, things became a lot easier. If I had any trouble with a chaos fight, I'd just bring Aranea. So I've been enjoying this because I've been playing around with different characters and different team comps. So I'd say generally, yeah, I've been okay with this era.
Yeah, I've not had any issue with this era, and I've enjoyed watching people be creative and the conversations we've had about, okay, how can we, get around this? How can we get around this content and do different things? And the TCC challenge has really taken off again in the midst of this. It really, the TCC challenge started kind of late EX era and then kind of died off in the early chaos era as it was much more difficult. And now it's kind of having a renaissance and probably going into Lefania, it will die down again. But maybe not, we'll see. But yeah, so I mean, I enjoy watching people mostly I enjoy discussing with people, the kind of concepts they're doing and what they're doing. I don't always enjoy running the same chaos fight 3, 4, 5 times. I do it sometimes. I don't record videos generally of that. I just don't play in a way where I can sit and record usually. But yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed it. Like I said, I think I would have enjoyed it more if ingots were not an issue and we could use more characters because I have tons of EXs and I have a lot more EXs than I have things realized right now or even books. So yeah, that would be kind of my one downside to this late area. Even if we could pull, because hey, maybe it'd be fun to have Jack. It'd be fun to use some of these other characters coming up from, and even, hey, I mean, I could pity 10 characters tomorrow, right? But I don't have ingots for him, so I'm not going to. So, Mino, what were you going to rant about?
I'll try to keep this brief because I've already done most of my ranting to other content creators in our channel. But basically, I know the majority of players do like the every character is viable era. I, as a player, personally like steady power creep because I feel like with such a wide roster that keeps expanding, the less power creep you have, the more forgettable a lot of characters and kits are, and the less special a lot of them are. When we're reviewing characters here, it's like, with Cinque and Jack, it's kind of like, yeah, like you could if you want to, for favorites or whatever. And basically, or it's like, oh, this is another damage dealer. All they do is damage. Here it is. The kits feel less and less special in the old pacing where the power creep rises every 2 months or so, at least each new DPS is kind of a big deal. For example, like King and Sephiroth, their kits are nothing special, but coming at the end of the 35 CP era, they power creep lets them stand out and lets people fall in love with and use the characters. In a very steady, stagnant climate, a lot of these characters are going to be bypassed just because they're just filler. Sadly, there's just going to be a lot of character. Like, if you look at the next few months, we talk about all the exciting characters. We don't talk about the 2 banner mates that also get power-ups for a lot of these. Like, Zidane gets passed over a lot. Ida gets passed over a lot. A lot of these, because they're like, oh yeah, they do DPS, and then and then somebody else with a more interesting kit comes along, or you already have Zack. You don't really need any other tanks until power creep raises. Same with Snow, stuff like that. I feel like once you have a stagnant power creep, some people ride the meta for way too long. We have Ultimecia, we et cetera, et cetera. In a games for service, it feels like in MMOs and stuff, there's always a steady climb every few months. When we have chaos to look forward to for another 7-8 months coming up here, and people only get stronger, like we said with the late EX Plus characters, it's so easy to forget about them when you have new LDs to play with coming out in tandem with them, right? So like Kane's EX Plus will drop, but no one's going to be excited if they pull Kane. They're looking for Arden, right? Like a lot.
So on that topic, Night is Dark Full of Terrors is asking, how much does foresight, knowing what we know from the Japanese version of the game, and how much does Aranea play into that problem that you're having right now in this era?
Well, I've been actively not using Aranea, which I don't know if that's my fault or like a design flaw of using this character seems very boring. So even though I pulled and invested in this character, I use her very little. And with foresight, it's hard because I know I follow a lot of JP players as they play JP, right? And because you never know what's around the corner, it's even easier to ride a super strong character, right? Because you're like, oh shit, I have Gladio now, so maybe as long as I can force Gladio through as many clears as possible, I can hoard gems for the next Gladio. Is basically a very common attitude to have without foresight, right? You're even more scared and you hold on to your gems even harder when you don't know what's around the corner. It's like the stock market right now during these uncertain times. Like with the spikes, people tend to hoard when crisis and unknown uncertainties are around the corner. With foresight, I feel like GL has the room to experiment with more favorites and off colors, right? Because it's kind of like, okay, I know this is the difficulty in the next month, and I know if I pull this one meta character, it will carry me through. So the rest of my ingots can go to whoever the fuck I want. Like me investing in Yang. And, that's nice. But I feel like it'd be even worse if we didn't have foresight.
Yeah, and I think the foresight plus the ingot shortage plus the kind of difficulty plateau all creates a perfect storm of being able to hoard, which for the business model is not particularly good, right? I mean, the company really doesn't want you to hoard. They want you to spend, so you have to spend. And so is that, does that say something good about Squex here? That, it's really, they're not really forcing you like a lot of other gachas to pull on every single banner to do every single, because there was an era for, especially for a few months where you really did need to pull to beat content. It was in the EX era, kind of around the Lena fights, right? You really did need to pull to beat content easily. So, and we didn't have the call to arms at that point, and kind of the vast number of characters we do now. Now you can pretty much use your characters for a while. Now there's going to be a couple fights here in the next couple of months that are going to be a little bit more challenging, but again, I think with the creativity of the GL, the call to arms, you're going to really find some creative ways to do it. That being said, and we do have Aranea, and JP did not have Aranea. That being said, there are still people that have no gems and no tickets. Go on Facebook and you'll see that's mostly just us, our elitism. Right?
I get we're only a small fraction of the players, but I feel like back in those days when you had to pull regularly to keep up, I feel like that's what gacha should be. They give you all these free resources. The point is you're picking and choosing each points in each month to invest. It's sort of like an investment game, right? They give you free resources, free to play. You can beat this whole game. Free resources to invest, and you have to choose to invest. Right now, it is perfectly valid to choose not to invest at all for months at a time, which many people are doing. A lot, like if you go on Reddit, many people have been bragging that they haven't spent gems since Aranea, and they're hoarding for BT because they can.
Right.
Because literally you can ride this entire era with one or two characters, which I feel is I feel like there should be some level of force power creep every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, Hero in chat is reminding us the Deuce to Agrius EX fights. Oh yeah, those were tough. Can I go on a rant here just for a second about free to play? I saw this again. We've talked a lot about free to play, pay to play, all that kind of stuff. This is not a pay to play game. You cannot be pay to play, right? I mean, you understand the concept of pay. This is not a pay to play game, and it's not pay to
win.
No, but people have been referring to the term pay to play, P2P, right? You don't pay to play this game. It is a free to play game. You can pay to get more stuff. But that doesn't, it's just not a correct term. World of Warcraft is a pay to play game, right? You have to pay to play the game on a regular month. It's a subscription based game, right? Or Final Fantasy VII Remake is a pay to play game. You pay to play it.
Or Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, right. Or a fighting game where you have to be paying to win. Or, I played in gachas that you paid to basically win guild events, and it was just, here's money to win the event. So it was literally pay to win. That's a whole different thing. Not really here. That doesn't really work here. So anyway, is there any other? It's nothing to do with anything. Is there any other questions?
I do think this.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go, Mino. I was just going to say that I think we're going to call it here for questions and save the last couple we have for next week.
Okay, great.
That's fine. Yeah. These all carry over. But I was just going to say, I think some of what we're talking about gets addressed with LDBT.
Yeah.
They abandoned the limited resources, and it's basically just pull. And at least for now, the power creep between LDs really does jump significantly every 2 months. So I do think you need to still regularly pull for LD. And they even have the bursts that I'm not too... I'll see when we get there. I'm not too happy with the concept because it feels like getting a burst is a free ride for 2 weeks. Because as one of the questions here that we'll address next time, they introduced the Synergy Challenge quest, right? Quests that you can only use synergy characters in. Well, if you bring the synergy BT, you don't need to team build at all, or even try to gear up your other characters. BT characters have carried the entire synergy quest with like 35 only or bronze weapon synergy characters. And I know a lot of discussion in JP is also like, oh man, this fight was hard. And it's like, what are you talking about? I had the BT synergy, I had Arden synergy for 2 weeks, nothing gave me trouble. Or, oh, hey, I had, lightning synergy and I didn't have to, why do you have to come up with all these strategies? I just use the BT character. I feel like the BT is a little too bordering pay to win. I really don't like how much stronger it is.
5DPZ is saying if you read the Google Play reviews, or I would assume the iOS reviews, the Apple Store reviews, you'd be surprised how many people who rant about Defo being pay to win. If you think Defo's pay to win, you're not playing it correctly. That makes no sense whatsoever. All right. Well, hey, thank you all for the questions, and you can jump those questions in Discord under podcast questions. Looking ahead, we have a SquEX community stream this Monday. Hopefully we'll have that as expected, and we expect here in the next month perhaps our first character boards. a raid event with Lena and Cypher's reworks and realizations, Prompto's LC, Arciela's event. We still have Cyan and Fujin, who haven't appeared yet in Global, their reworks and their realizations, and EX weapons. Elfenod's LC, Kisa's event, and Act 2, Chapter 9, which is Cloud of Duty, and Kefka's rework and realization. So that's what's coming up. We'll get more about that here on Monday when we have the community stream, and we'll hopefully not have any delays with the COVID-19 crisis, but we'll see. We would certainly understand if that is the case, but hopefully that won't be the case, and we'll continue to have new content as we want that Arciela event, get her in the thing. So you can check out our TCC website, tccpodcast.com, with all of our links. You can go to our apparel t-shirt store. I haven't set up, I think you can get TCC face masks. So I haven't done that yet. Join our Discord. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and of course YouTube, where you can check out my extreme tier list video that was just posted. Tomberry Troop, tomberrytroop.com, and that's Inkwelder, Dreamy, Teliut, Baynovis. They all have YouTube channels as well. Macnol's website, which is all the call to arms, DecidioInfo.com. Great. Want to thank Kreese and Mino for all the work they do. Thank Aerola, Islali on YouTube, Inkwelder, J.A, Jin Lee, Macnol, Quetz, who does the Materia bot, Shara, Reddit, Strafe. We thank Black Cloud, too, for his work and his insight as well. So also want to thank our help with design. That would be Dreamy, who did our intro video, Jin Lee, who did our backgrounds and emotes, Hate13, who did our narration, and we give a big shout out to our founder, Pierre, and thank you all. I did not thank you, Retro Gamer Dad. Thank you. I appreciate all you do. And thank you, Resfoina, for the host and for the raid, and thank you all for being here with us every single week. It makes this so much more fun and helps me stay awake because this is past my bedtime. So, and thank you all for submitting to the call to arms and the TCC challenge and the TCC challenge extreme. Look for a new TCC challenge coming soon and a new TCC challenge extreme this week for Jack's event, You Ignorant Slut. That may not be what it's called. But anyway, that's a reference to an old SNL skit, so you can YouTube that, you millennials and post-millennials, figure out what that is. So for episode 103, this has been Mark, Mino, and Kreese. Until next time, the best of luck to all of you, and goodbye.